Hi everyone, Anayza here, and I'm joined today with my friend Anissa. Hi Anissa.
Hello.
And today we're just going to be talking about emotional depth because we both are deep feelers and just kind of talking about our experiences with feeling our emotions and what does that mean for ourselves and connecting with others when we're in vulnerable and tender spaces. Yeah, Anissa, do you want to share a bit about what you do, what you share in the world?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Goodness, yes, what I do, so many things. Um, as far as, yeah, I would say my main gigs would be doing a lot of coaching with people, spiritual coaching is what I call it. So just especially people in transitions, or definitely working with emotional intelligence. A lot of times my clients are people that maybe can't fully access some things. And as part of that, I feel like it fits really well with the other part of my work, which is working more, I would say, in a more healing, energy, therapeutic kind of context, which is what I call soul integration journeys. And the best I can do to explain these without going into too much depth would be sort of like maybe potentially taking a mild psychedelic journey, but without any psychedelics. So it's just going into the subconscious realm, doing some inner child work, some shadow work, and just going in and really integrating something within the soul so that we come out a more complete version of ourselves. So yeah, so these go really hand in hand. A lot of times I'll do packages with clients where we do both types of work, maybe start out with some healing and integration work and then move into some coaching to start to find how to put it into practical terms and really achieve life goals and things that maybe have been stuck. So yeah,
Mhm.
in a nutshell. A big
Yeah,
hat.
big nut. That's beautiful. You described that so well. I feel, yeah, we do something similar in terms of why I do the quantum healing work, and I feel like you described it really well. So that's great.
Nice.
Yeah,
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 sometimes it's hard to describe these
yeah,
things.
because it's so experiential.
Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Well, let's see how we can enter this conversation just around. I feel like something we've both been noticing is just that when we may be in really tender and vulnerable spaces, and I think many of us have been experiencing these spaces, especially these last 2 years, and how to really be with it and also how to be with others when they're there. And I feel like something we've spoken about is how maybe ways people can come to support someone when they're in like tender vulnerable spaces can kind of like take not feel safe and maybe even take them out of their emotional reality. So I'm curious if you wanted to start speaking about how that resonates for you and what that brings up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So with other, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I would say, just it's definitely a almost a passion of mine. We could say obsession, but I won't go that far. But it's definitely a passion of mine to really I've spent many years, I think, through some of the trainings I've been in and just with a lot of practice, with clients, but not just with clients, with friends, with family. I'm just really trying to practice more around, I guess, what I would call deep listening, compassionate listening, maybe. And along with that, it's not just a matter of like, oh, I hear the words you're saying, but it's also just really deep presence and holding in love. And I think, yeah, I would say to speak to that, especially when people are in really deep states, this time, yeah, this is a crazy time. There's so much going on besides all the crazy COVID and all the things with that. And just planetary wise, like there's lots happening. And I just feel like there's a collective, like there's a lot of awakening happening. And with that comes these sort of growing pains. And so, yeah, I would say that people seem to be, a lot of trauma is surfacing, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And so I feel people are starting to really go into more, I'm having this personally myself as well, and just surrounded by people who are going into some pretty deep, intense emotions and don't quite know what to do with it sometimes. This is where, of course, some people can go down different paths that might be more destructive in
Mhm.
nature. But yeah, I guess just as I've been noticing, I've kind of been collecting data based on my own practices and how I've been trying to show up, but also noticing when others are there for me, what does and doesn't work. right?
Mhm.
So it's, I guess I would say that for me, some of the keys that I have found that feel really good for me and that seem to resonate for other people as well when I'm holding the space is just around like this compassionate listening, which would be, for one thing, like really hearing with deep presence what the person is sharing with you and the emotions that they're sharing with you, with a lot of validation that doesn't have anything to do with you, like yourself, right? So we've been kind of programmed, I feel like, in our societies to that we think empathy means, oh, I need to relate to the person. So when the person's telling you about their experience and their feelings, we jump in with, oh, I totally understand, and then we go into our story, right? And that actually, I feel, when people are in a deep state of trigger, in very intense emotions, whether it be, sadness, grief, overwhelm, depression, anger, any of those, that to say something like that can actually do the opposite, weirdly enough, but it does. Like, it can be very invalidating, because then it, at least I know when I'm in that state, for somebody to say that and then start telling me their story, I start to almost feel defensive or angry, because I'm like, wow, but no, that isn't the same. And you don't understand what I feel. This is my own unique experience. So I think to just be really aware of the fact that everyone is having their own unique experience. And yes, we have a commonality as human beings. So maybe we've, for example, experienced anger before, but we haven't been in their shoes exactly. So to give them space just to like really be able to express what they need and want to, and without trying to jump to solutions. I feel like we also can tend to go toward fix it mode. Like,
Mhm.
okay, what can I do? Let's and of course, long term, this is why in the work that I do, I like to start with just the compassionate, like, let's dive deep and let's just go in and see. And then later to start, when they're not in a triggered state, to start to move toward solution and goals. But yeah, I would say that's kind of a huge difference that I see in that compassionate listening space, is that I'm not trying to find a solution for you. I just want to be with you in it, and just care and not jump toward, oh, we'll try this or try that, or what about this, or think about that. Because
Yeah.
what that can do too is add, I guess the last thing I'll say on it is that it can really add on top of what they're already feeling. If they feel that somehow you're disapproving of the space, or they can't hold, that you don't want to hold the space at all with them or be with them in their feelings, then on top of what they're already feeling, they can feel shame, right? So then they can walk away with this like, oh,
Mhm.
wow, so I'm too much, or I'm this, or I'm that. And because this person can't be with me. So yeah, I find that the more we can just hold and validate and support the person right where they are without expecting a change or trying to make them be different. In and of itself, I've seen people dramatically clear through that energy and shift like within a moment, even.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can just be there with them, whether it's distance or in person, but just like energetically hugging them and saying like, yes, I'm here. You like do whatever you need, cry, scream, shout, curse, whatever it is, even at an energetic level. And I can literally see people's energy just like their aura
Mhm.
expands, like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just want to like define specifically because you kind of spoke about it, that we are speaking in the moment of intense emotion, vulnerability, and tenderness, right? Because there are other states we're in where we need support and we're like not in as deep of an emotional triggered response. And then that's when we can sort of feel into like the spirals that are connected to practice or process, right? Or something like this. But I think in this conversation, we're really talking about those moments when when we're like feel wounded, and how to feel safe with another when we're feeling that depth of woundedness, and also like how to in some ways feel safe with ourselves. And I find that I feel like in our core nature, we are whole. Like we are, that's like who our essence is. But as we are in humanness, there are places of us that can seem broken or whole. And it's like, can we find the spaces to really be with and express the parts of us that just feel shattered? And no, it doesn't define us. No, it doesn't define our whole narrative. And so it's like allowing ourselves to really get to those places that are just that just feels that sense of despair and defeat. And it's not really to pathologize them or to put them too much in our mental mind, but to really just let ourselves deeply feel it. And then it's, when we're alone, it's like giving ourselves that grace to
Mm.
let it come. And then if you feel to call someone, if you have someone to speak to, and like you were naming it so beautifully, and the way I feel it, it's like the opening of a flower, or this unfurling, like this leaning in, and like how really just validating someone, listening and sort of opening your aura field to receive them kind of creates that release, that, or like just that opening that you were kind of speaking to. And I it's so sensitive, and I sense it so often, because sometimes people can like share something, and then they're like, well, how about you? And I've noticed when sometimes I pause and just be like, wait, can I just like reflect you, like the depth of you that I'm receiving. Like so many times people cry, just it's just this beautiful thing to take a moment to really just see someone where they are, and not be like, oh, I heard about this person who's going through it and they did this, and like, going into these things. And I really feel like this is really important right now, because a lot of people are feeling deepness. They're feeling deepness, and it doesn't always feel safe to feel that depth with themselves or with others. And I feel like we really need to remember how to feel safe in the depth of our emotion, because it really does feel like a portal. I was just saying to Anissa before this conversation that yesterday I was feeling really scared, and I just said, like, I'm scared. And I also felt how I'm also very sacred, like I'm also a sacred being. And it felt like the fear is a portal, like it is the pathway to knowing something. And it's sort of like our capacity to feel it deeply is different than sort of when we kind of like are in the, like the upper registers of it. It's like when we like go all the way down. And I see this so often, like really creating the space to be in some ways the depths of hell with ourselves and with others.
Yeah.
It's like heaven opens. It's just like it's right there. It's like right there. And yeah, so I just feel it's tender. It is high emotional intelligence. I feel like it is to really develop the state of deep listening. But this is like this, this moment, if this, life, I don't know, if life is a school, that's like one stream we can think of it as, then this is the moment. I feel this is the lesson, is this is one of the prominent lessons of this moment for sure. Like, is how can we really create that capacity to listen to what's deeper in ourselves and in others.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love it. So many things stood out to me about what you just said.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Even just when you were saying like talking about the scared state and then having it like alchemized essentially into sacred, like you used the word portal earlier. So it's like, yeah, just seeing how so often we don't understand how interconnected all these parts are, because in a sense, they're all part of the whole, they're all one.
Yeah.
So that fear that can also be the portal into the sacred, it's kind of like the two sides of the coin, or
Mhm.
and to me that connects too with what you said earlier about how we are whole, like we're already whole beings in our essence. And when you said that, I realized like, yes, this is where a lot of us have this feeling in life sometimes where we feel like broken, which we
Mhm.
are not, but we can have this feeling of being broken,
Mhm.
mainly because there are parts of us that we have, it's kind of what I call shadow work. It's like these parts of us that we have rejected, denied, disowned, and pushed away. And maybe they're scary, like, oh, I'm supposed to be a nice, kind person, and I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be sweet and gentle, and all the fruits of the spirit, and so we don't look at some of these other parts. And I think what you said is so valid and so important. And I think that is part of holding space with another, is to be able to allow some of those other maybe scarier or what we might think of as darker or more
Mhm.
painful parts of us that are really hard to be with, because that is the wholeness. So it's like, yes, we're these whole beings, but if we're literally rejecting all these parts of us and pushing them out and saying, oh, no, no, that's not part of me, then of course we don't feel whole. How could we? Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what's exactly what you said. That is what's happening in the earth, like the emotional intelligence this is the school of life that we're in right now. you
Yeah.
know like, wow,
Mhm.
how can we, and we need help with that. I think that's what I want to say too. This is why I feel so passionate about this, because it's like we really also independence has been way too idolized in the last couple of decades, especially. And it's just like, no, we are
Mm,
not meant to do this stuff alone. And so,
yeah.
especially these hard parts that we've
Mm.
pushed out for so long, we don't even know how to be with that. We have to have other with us, we have to. So, yeah, I'm very adamant about that. When people get into like, oh, I'm supposed to meet all my own needs and do everything myself, I'm like, what world do you
Did
live
you go to
in?
the grocery store today? I mean, obviously someone helped you out. I mean, it's like,
Exactly.
do your electricity work? I mean, there's so many ways. Yeah. Yeah.
In all the, yes, in all the practical ways. And we seem to accept that. And somehow, it's just kind of part of how it works. Like we don't stop and think about what's behind the scenes of our practical everyday life. But in our emotional world, in this like, like coming back into ourselves, healing wounds, healing trauma, like really trying to find our most fulfilling, beautiful, happy life. Like that's it's like we need hand holding sometimes. We literally
Yeah.
need support. So yeah.
Mhm.
This is where I get like my passionate soapbox. Yes, we
Yeah.
need
No,
each
I
other.
love it. Yeah.
Mm,
So much I want to respond to. And just responding to that last note, that interdependence. And,
mhm,
and like you said, in the practical ways, we like kind of, it's like automatic, right? But then when we, in the personal ways, it's like not there. And it's like, well, how can we look at the things we take for granted and look at nature and kind of remember that organic interdependence, right? And I feel like, something I say often is like, I feel like we're experiencing a third wave of humanity. Like one was super tribe focused. And basically, if you weren't in the tribe, being out from the tribe kind of equated to death, right? And now we're in a hyper individualistic society, and I feel we're moving into the capacity to be sovereign and interdependent, like in true communion with ourselves and with others. And it's not to abandon the for the other, or only stand with the self out of like in disregard for the other, right? It's like, how do we really allow this bothness? And I do feel like it's actually an organic and natural state. And I feel like that's
mhm,
also what we're coming to. And this leads to the other thing I wanted to say, which is in response to something you said, which is like in the course, I love A Course of Love. And like one of my offerings, Awaken as Love, is like kind of based on this idea and like how this idea is being broken into my life, which is that at some point in the book, they say love isn't being kind or good or like doing these things that you think are good. Like love isn't that. Love is so beyond any concept that you humans have right now within your day-to-day sort of reality. And it really is this experience of like our wholeness is love. And that means that love and our wholeness includes everything of ourselves. It includes the demons and the hell realms and the things that we find so scary and so dark. And it's like a part of shadow work is really, becoming becoming a lover of your shadow, and knowing that the shadow is an emanation of the light. And
mhm,
that is, and so that connects to the other thing I want to say, which is like also in like spiritual mindedness, there is this, and then there's different schools of thought. And honestly, I feel like there are so many ways to be awakened. I actually feel if there's 7 billion people on the planet, maybe there's 7 billion ways to be enlightened. I actually feel like we're kind of in this movement where enlightenment isn't held in one frequency, it can be held in multiple. But something I want to speak to, because something I guess that affected me, and I think is present, is like when you're super awake, like you don't have as many emotions, or you're like kind of cooler, you're not as reactive, you're not as like, I think there's this idea that you're not as stimulated by intense reactions, and you're able to kind of get over things more quickly and feel less detached. And I wonder in the ways that this languaging, especially for Westerners, is a bypassing of so many things that we're feeling inside. And actually I've feel as I come more like realizing the divinity of my own humanity, it's like the depth of my feeling, the broadness of my feeling, and in some ways knowing that like I am so this, and also I am so not this, that actually, I don't know, it feels more holistic. And I guess I just want to speak because I do feel like a lot of people in the pursuit of spirituality are denying themselves. And I don't feel like, if we're in the human experience, I think we're here to be human. And I know that's different for everyone. Some people are maybe like, I'm here to be a Sunday master. Maybe that's true for you. I don't know. But I really feel for many of us, we were really denying so many things of of the human experience out of sake of a spiritual one, not realizing that the human is spirit, like it's not separate. And like how do we kind of come into once again that organic natural natural remembrance where love isn't right, love isn't just this experience of being above everything, love is the experience of it all. That was
Absolutely.
such a like my soliloquy.
I love it. Oh my God. I'm like taking it all in. Yes. Such a yes. Oh my goodness. 100%. Yeah. It's like what you just shared, of course, in your own special, unique words was so similar and just a really beautiful way of expressing so many conversations that I've had in the last few weeks as well. So it's
Mhm,
just like resonating really hard. Like my whole
mhm.
body's tingling. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because the, and spiritual, even the words, our vernacular sometimes doesn't quite. I love what you even said about love. Like, how can we even? It's something so far beyond anything we can even describe. Yeah. So it's like sometimes hard to choose the right words
Yeah.
to talk about these concepts. But I think I think that's where it is so important to just tune into the resonance of it. It's almost like, to me, I like to think about it like music, it's just like we're at this frequency and you can tell in your body, you can tell in the way that, that it affects your thoughts, your feelings, everything that like, oh yes, this. And then other maybe music vibes don't do that. Maybe they make you feel tense and so it's kind of similar. It's just like a vibration. And like you said, there could be 7 billion different frequencies of each person's ascension, awakening, the words, but yeah, essentially it is challenging to speak about. But what you just said about, I think that is actually what this next level, I mean, I don't want to get into a whole other topic, but yeah, I feel like it's the next level of whatever we want to call, leveling up or going into the next realm. Does feel like it's very much about embodiment of really understanding that it's not these, yeah, like the ascended master, like what you said, I love. It's not just that we're down up here looking down at everything. We're trying to get out of our bodies more. It's actually, no, we're going to start bringing this more into our bodies and actually being a living experience of it. Like it really makes me think of, yeah, some of the ascended masters that have already gone before. I mean, I grew up Christian, so I have a very strong reference around Jesus Christ, and
Mhm.
it just makes you think like, yeah, like he could have done everything from up there, but he understood the importance of actually embodying and coming in a human form and having a human experience, and and living that as, yeah. Anyway, it's exciting. It's very exciting because I feel like as we can say yes to all of these experiences and every feeling that comes through,
Mhm.
it's like this is where, yeah, this is where we're going to actually be enlightened. I don't even
Mhm.
like that word sometimes, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
know. Yeah.
also, but yes, that's the
Floating.
enlightening. Mm-hmm. It's like, how
Mhm.
can we be with this in the way that's truly embodying love, and the bypassing's got to stop. Bypassing's got to stop. But I think
Mhm.
sometimes it's really just, this is why I was excited about having this conversation, because I do feel so, and I've had many conversations with individuals lately where it's like, I feel like it's really going to require some, just like anything, teachings. That's why we have book after book after book of teachings passed down for hundreds of thousands of millions of years. It's just like we have to pass along the knowledge, and so I do feel like that the more we can communicate about it and start to be really real about our
Mhm.
feelings and start to get more educated, I guess, on things like emotional intelligence and how to really be with people is, yeah, it feels super important.
Mhm. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. And I feel like also it's and this is really I advocate it's like we are the sacred text. Like it's like
Mhm.
within us. And I feel that is the experiential aspect that is now and that is,
Mm.
outside of our language and even in the words we're using, right? There's a way that they're so loaded that like the nuance what we're saying isn't in the language and it's like it's really within. I love how you said music because it is in that resonance that in the chords, like and then recognizing discord and it's also so subtle, right? Because sometimes if you're in discordant or something, there's like opportunities for something to like wiggle out of you, or and then sometimes it's like it's a opportunity or move to like move away, sometimes it's an opportunity to move towards, and no book can tell you that. Like, like like there's so many, like honestly, I feel like right now we have so many people have so many experiences and like lessons that can show you equal responses for for any action you want to take, and like how there's something to learn from it, there's something to grow from it, and really only we know like what these next steps are for us. And it's like, really, can we remember our capacity to read our inner scripture, like to like really be that sacred text for our own lives. And then there's a leaning in as you recognize everyone else too is their own sacred text, right? There's like, and it's not like there's no one that's right over another. It's really, yeah, it really is fantastic thing. I was, hope it's okay to say, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she's like, maybe what it's going to be is that somehow we're all like emanating our own community and reality, like from our vantage point, and then like, and it's like literally every single person somehow like and it's somehow and it's like also we're all a part of each other. So it's this, I don't know, it's, I really feel like what is capable, like what is possible through our capacity to feel deeply, kind of coming to the core of this conversation, to like really feel ourselves deeply, and then kind of recognize another is sort of beyond the words of the paradigm we can conceive of. Because like when what that actually means to live into that society or world feels like so miraculous that I don't even, like, I can't really conceive of what's possible, but it feels like this and that, right? It's not this. Usually we live in a world that's like this or this, right? But what if it's like this and that? Like it. So
Absolutely. Yes, I always call it like and consciousness or all consciousness, like that it doesn't have to be separate parts. And yeah, absolutely. It's both, it's all, it's agreed. Absolutely. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, you know what just came to me? I'm just gonna, if it's okay, I'm just gonna speak it because it's here, like it just came through. As I said, I have a background in Christianity, so I still have a lot of scripture in my mind, and they've been coming so much lately, and kind of my own paraphrase, but I feel like there's so much power and beauty in the scriptures. And I believe it was maybe a psalm, and I think it was, if it was a psalm, then it was probably David speaking to God. And the what I'm hearing right now is that deep calls to deep in the roar of your waterfall. And it's and as you were just speaking about that, I was just like, oh my God, wow. Like this, to me, that's so powerful, because how it was coming through was just like this deepness that you're talking about, like the depth of our emotions, the depth of how, like the possibility of what is there that we've just not even accessed, and to see that there's actually a deepness within. I mean, we can individualize it and say the deepness within me is calling to the deepness within you, within the roar of God's waterfall. Like that's
Wow.
freaking loud and powerful, right? Like,
Wow.
and that we can hear it even with the waterfall, like pounding down on it, it's just like, not just pounding down, but like like supporting it, anyway, it just felt so powerful when I heard it. I was like, oh, yes. And I think that's also at the collective level. So, yeah,
Mm.
deep calls to deep in the roar of your waterfall.
Wow. That's so
Right?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Ooh. Mm.
Mm. And yeah, I feel this space, whatever this space is we're in, it comes through feeling really sad sometimes, feeling like it comes through our personal experiences, and then being with others, just like feeling the intensity,
Mhm.
and yeah, something it's so beautiful to like get into these more like light and unity and like oneness spaces, and it is so brimming and encouraging and encouraging. But I know so many times people are, but we don't show and see when people are just like alone sobbing. And I
Mhm.
just want to like presence that's like a part of this space. Like that's the depth within God's roar. It's like when we're
Mhm.
alone sobbing. And then of course, and there's something you spoke to, so you speak to, so I'm gonna, yeah. But and there's like spaces where it's, a part of us being into our wholeness, and a part when there is a deep trauma or PTSD or like something where we need more help, because there is like a really deep traumatic event in their lives or that we're just sensing that is, in some ways beyond our scope. And we need someone to just like be there for us. And that's okay too, and it's like not to, some people like pain and suffering. And when we're able to be with our pain, it's beautiful. But when we are in the midst of our suffering, it's okay to have help. It's not to like kind of get bad, like down on ourselves, like I shouldn't be suffering so much. It's like, no, if you are in that space, like reach out to
Yeah.
others. Like, reach out to others.
Yes, with a capital Y. Totally. Oh my God. This is, yes. If there's anything I could, yeah, I'm trying to think like, how can I emphasize it even more? Yes, reach out. We are not meant to have to hold some of those, especially when you're on that ledge, that's what I kind of think of it as, when you're on that ledge of just emotional things like despair, things like that deep loneliness that no matter how much logic you bring in, you feel that you're 100% alone in the world. Like those kinds of things, we're not meant to hold that ourselves. We're not. And it's actually in the reaching out and in the connection that we can find the truth, find the truth of that peace. Because a lot of times those are just like a separation. It's a deep feeling around not just separation from other, but separation within ourselves, right? That wholeness we were talking about, that's like a piece of us that's over here that, and sometimes helping, like reaching out can actually help. I know I've seen it in my own life that just to reach out in the midst of some of those like despair feelings can actually take that piece and click it back into place. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm whole. So important. So important. Mm. Mm.
And to your point about healing, because I know for me personally, I am one, not recently, I've been like reaching out for help, but I can be one to hold it alone or to think that um, a kagama, like I'm a kagama, and like I'll like mend myself better, right? Because I do feel some of my deepest healings are when I'm with myself. But to what you're speaking about, it's not always like, it's kind of brought me back into humanity and into interdependence to like be seen in my sadness. And it's not so much that they are like, it's not about going to like the best healer, the best psychic or any of that, because that actually hasn't helped. What has helped is actually just not just being seen in sadness and not being alone in it. And it's like that thing of I'm allowed. Like I'm allowed to be everything I am. And I can say that alone, I can do a lot of work alone, but then there is still this feeling of like, do I belong in this world though? If like if people can't see all of me, and the more people, and it's like if I just receive their sight of me, and no one's perfect. People have their own stuff, and it's like we're not about people being perfect. It's about being a part. It's like being a part of humanity. This is me personally, and like maybe it resonates to other people. It's like just about, and it's really changed how I can be with others and receive from others. And I'm still deepening my capacity to receive and be with others, and in the ways that feel really nourishing for me. But yeah, it's really helped. Being seen in my sadness has just told me that I'm allowed to be here. Like I'm welcome here. I belong here. It has really been supportive.
Oh, 100%. I love what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes we are called to have to work through some things alone, like, and usually you can tell within yourself if you have the capacity to do that, right? But it's interesting because as you were speaking, I was just thinking of some things I've said a couple of times to clients too, where when they, because like you said, maybe so if the perspective is that you're going to someone so that they can heal you, it doesn't work like that. So I would say, like, no matter what, we are healing ourselves, whether you're doing it alone or with other, right? But it's the capacity and the skill, or whatever you want to call it, the gift that the other has to hold that with you, that can potentially give you the strength and power that you need to heal yourself, right? So I always, right? I had one client that would tell me all the time, like, oh, Anissa, thank you. You healed me. And I'm like, No, I didn't. I just sat here with you, like allowing you to be you, walking you through some processes to help you see yourself. I said, you healed yourself. I could
Mhm.
not have done that unless you were willing and open to the process, right? So it's really recognizing who ultimately is the empower, because that is our empowerment. If somebody else does it for me and I truly believe that they're the one who healed me, then I don't have power. Now I was like, wait. So the empowerment is just, yeah, like really recognizing that we are healing ourselves, and we can do that sometimes on our own, and we can do that sometimes with other that has
Mhm.
that capacity, that can give me the energetic hug that I need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think it's great because I feel like we need to reframe what it means to receive your support because and to your words exactly. And like for me personally, I used to do Akashic record readings and I used to, I don't know if you've done those before you, but people come with questions and you answer them. And
Okay.
I was able to do it. And I had access to the Akashic records and I can be quite psychic at moments. And I moved away from it because I didn't, I'm like, that's not helpful. That's actually not what I want to promote in this world. It's not about giving people's answers. It's about realizing that they are their own answer.
Yeah.
And if I can create the capacity for someone to remember that is like what I'm here for. And it's not, and then the work I do isn't as clear and doesn't make as much sense. And but it's for the people who resonates with it, they get it. And I even had a client say to me, she's like, thank you for not giving me the answer. She's like, it's
Mhm.
not as easy, but it's more loving. And I was just like I'm like, you get it. You get
Yeah.
it. Like I'm, yeah, I'm here to just reflect to you your own loving state. And like, and I have the capacity, all the things, the tools that comes, but it's really about really, I'm just here to reflect your loving state. And for you to remember that through the gaze of God, that just happens to like, it's like I'm just here, but it's like really through the gaze of God to me and the source creator or word you want to use.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, when we recognize that, yeah, yeah, it changes, it just changes everything.
It does. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love what you just said. Absolutely. I don't even have anything to add to it. That was it. Yeah.
Mm.
Beautiful. Mm.
This has been great. Oh gosh, just
Yeah.
yes. This is why I want to have this conversation. I'm like, Anissa gets it. We're gonna be able to talk about like
Yes.
the thing that we're developing a language for. We really are
Mhm.
developing, I feel like, a language of this nuanced space. And yeah, it's so great to have it in conversation because it's like so alive, it's yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. We're experiencing it in real time, right? Like in our own personal lives with our clients, with our friends. Like I'm seeing it all around me. So it's all in real time. So it's like so present for me right now. Like, yes. So that tells me now is the time. Now is the time. Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. It's like alive. It's not like, oh, I've done this and now I know about it. It's like, no, I'm living this. It's emergent. And I think this is also just okay, this is a bit of a tangent, but like with this format for me on YouTube, I kind of have I'm like, I feel a lot of people YouTube that kind of come with like a knowing state, right? And that's like one way you can show up. And I think that's a way that makes sense. And like I know lots of things, but I don't find those things interesting. I find it what's more interesting is like how vulnerable can I be? And it's scary and I'm emergent and maybe I don't sound like an authority, but I'm like, but I don't really want to, like, because it's really just can I be here? Like, can we be here? And I might not say the perfect words or have the perfect thing, or it might come or it might not. And yeah, I like see my experience on YouTube and I'm like, I'm not really standing in like this knowing state, but like I don't really want to. I want to just be and be in my emergent state. Yeah, but I don't know how the algorithm feels about it, but like, yeah.
Well, I love it because I think this is the new wave that's coming. And a lot of people are in it already, and it is just, yeah, like just being really present with one another as we're in it. I like the emerging, exactly. It's kind of like, that made me think of like when we're in the cocoon, right? Like, or the butterfly, that maybe our wings have formed, but now we have to start figuring out how do we get ourselves out of this cocoon, and like, we got to emerge. It's all happening and this is new, and there's no caterpillar manual to tell us what's gonna happen. It's all just happening
Yeah,
in real time, right? So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Another reflection of that is I feel like I'm midair learning how to fly. Like every day, I'm like I'm like I'm out the nest. I've jumped, and I'm not, I'm like falling, rising, I'm like midair. And I really feel like this, and I talked to this recently, it's time of the Aquarius. It's like we're learning how to fly. And I think it's different. I just think everything is shifting, and landing might mean something different than we thought it will be, because it might be in flight, and
Mhm,
it's about soaring instead.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well, this has been
I keep
so,
feeling like we should write a book, and then I'm like, but why do we need a book? Like
oh, you can have more,
the text is within us. It's being written as we speak.
yeah. Well, I think more conversations would be nice. Like I like, it feels
Yeah.
alive. There's a frequency that just feels so potent and prominent, and I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I'm feeling. Like, and
Mhm,
together finding the wordscape,
mhm.
the structure of words that holds it. Well, I'm just so glad we did this. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you. Thanks for having this beautiful idea that it feels, yeah, it feels really good and authentic and spontaneous and in the moment. I love it. Real time is the best.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
Oh, only that.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mm.
All right. Do you have any closing words, or?
Oh, let me feel. Hmm. I found that there was a part of me that's I'm in my very calm,
Hmm.
processing kind of energy. And there's a part of me that wants to tell a joke or something. Like just to be silly and then like, let's go out with a bang. But one's not coming to mind at the moment. So I think it's gonna have to just again be spontaneous when it comes. But no, I'm just really grateful. I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful just for a space to get to discuss these things that are, yeah, that really feel, oh, they're so important to my heart. And I think they're really so important to the collective. And as you know, I'm seeing these shifts again, like I guess my last thing would just be to say that, yeah, I had a conversation the other day with someone where I was sharing my own experience of feeling a bit invalidated when I was in the midst of a trigger. And when I shared it with this person, she kind of paused me like right then. It was like, oh my gosh, I always thought that to relate to someone and tell like how I could relate was like being empathic. And she goes, what you're saying to me is really making me think about like a new way to, so I just want to say that I think the more that we can share our own experience with people, really does, it's powerful. That's the book, like that's the education, that's the, that people can start to take it in, and just it makes them reflect on their own world and how they've shown up. And it's like, oh, little by little, boop, boop, boop. So it's really cool stuff.
Yeah. Back to like the living novels, the
Mhm.
troubadours, the people who just walk around telling the stories of the time. And us both being travelers, I mean, we've
True.
absorbed many cultures and perspective and lands,
Mhm.
and they are a living story. They live within me. And I know that, yeah, they live within you, and they live within all of us. These stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Huh, absolutely. I love that. Okay. That's it. Another metaphor to bring into my repertoire. The troubadour. Another archetype.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
Oh,
you.
well, just so much love to you, Anissa, and thank you all if you've listened to this point. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love conversations. They bring me to me in a different way than me just speaking. So I appreciate this opportunity. And hmm, I feel excited and grateful and like brimming. So yeah, just like letting that go out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Blessings.
Thank you so much. Love you.
Love you.